Hi there, my name is Pete BarenBregge. I'm the jazz editor at Alfred Music, and it's my pleasure today to talk to Jim Snidero. I'm going to read a little bio that they've prepared for me, and it says here, and I'm going to add to that in a minute. Over the past 35 years, Jim has come to be known as one of the finest jazz musicians of his generation, as an alto saxophonist, composer, arranger, author, and educator. Jim is currently an adjunct faculty member at the New School in New York and has been a visiting professor, excuse me, at some of the finest music institutions in the world. Thanks for joining us. Before we start here with some comments from Jim, I must say that for years and years, I'm a saxophonist myself. I've admired Jim's work and I thought, well, this guy is amazing. And I never had a chance to meet him. I had heard him play a couple times at conferences and such. And then I think I heard you in New York once, excuse me. And oddly enough, I used to live in Maryland, and I'm talking to somebody in my church one day, and they knew I was a saxophone player. And they said, I guess this person was Jim's father. And they said, do you know Jim, a guy named Jim Snidero? I said, whoa. I said, I don't know him personally, but I certainly know who he is. And I admire him tremendously. And they said, well, he's my son. I'm like, whoa. And then because of the connection with Alfred and advanced music and such, I had a chance to meet him. We could hang out a little bit. So anyhow, probably too much information, but I just wanted you to know, I'm talking to our audience here, how special this guy is and what a just a marvelous musician that has talent that is beyond scope. So this is very impressive. Welcome, Jim. Good to see you.
Oh, Pete, that's going to be hard to live up to, my friend.
All right. So I have a couple really nice comments and questions I'd like to ask you to have a little discussion. First of all, who or what was your musical mentor or inspiration to become a musician and be the talent player that you are?
That's an easy question to answer. It was Phil Woods. I was blessed to have great band directors and great private teachers in the Washington, D.C. area that were, terrific players. And one of them told me, you got to check out Phil Woods. And this is when I was a teenager. And they said, you got to get this particular record. And it was live at the Frankfurt Jazz Festival. And I got that record and that was it. I mean, it was really, as soon as I heard that, I knew that I wanted to be a jazz alto saxophonist. And I wanted to be Phil Woods when I was a kid. And then I got to meet him and I got to study with him. I was actually at a live recording that he did that was very famous. I was in the audience live at the Showboat Lounge when I was a kid, which is in Silver Spring, Maryland. And I knew Phil till the day he died. As a matter of fact, about 3 months before he passed away, my wife and I visited him at the same place that he lived in Delaware Water Gap. It's the house burnt down and he built on the same foundation. So it's the same location. And this was just someone that I thought was just one of the greatest saxophone players ever that I had heard, and that was an incredible improviser and everything. And that's just what I wanted to do. I knew it at the moment. I'm one of those cases when I was 14 years old, there was no question in mind that I was going to be a jazz saxophone player.
That's a very good mentor. And I think you're not alone, because Phil Woods is the god of alto saxophone, as we all know. I have that album, by the way, live at the Showboat. It's great. It's
yeah,
spectacular. Let me ask you this question. From your younger years in various school music programs, do you have a prominent memory or something that stands out with your young education?
Let's see. I would say it was going to jazz festivals, like going with my high school band and going to these festivals that still happen today. That was probably one of the most fun experiences as a high school musician. I remember going to the University of Maryland, College Park, and they had a festival there and there was a terrific band. We were never going to play better than them from Langley. And a lot of the professional musicians came out of that program too. But we had a terrific band director, and the musical atmosphere was it was very high level.
That's pretty cool. I lived in Wilmington, Delaware when I was a kid, and we used to go to the same festivals you probably went to. And that Langley band was so good.
They
George
were famous.
Oran led that band, remember?
Right.
And
I remember.
I can recall as a kid, oh no, Langley's going to be there. Oh my God, because they were so good and so tight and so hip.
Yeah, no, they were the real deal. And I actually went and saw a couple of concerts with Chase was a group that I saw there. I think Buddy Rich, they used to have concerts at the college, like at the high school in the auditorium. So he was, that program was, I think it was the best program in the area. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Yes, for sure. So I know you have some a project. You want to tell us a little bit about that that's coming out today, just briefly, if you would?
Yeah, coincidentally, I've got a new book series out, and I feel that it's the best work I've done in jazz education. As some of you may know, I've written four different series of books. The first one was 25 years ago, called Jazz Conception, and they seem to have helped a lot of people. I can say that for sure. I've met a lot of professional musicians now that said they started off with those books, which is incredibly gratifying. The new series, it's along the same lines that we offer the book for the different instruments: trumpet, trombone, alto sax, tenor sax, flute, and clarinet. There are etudes in it, but what I've done this time that I think is very valuable is I've gone into an analysis of it, of each piece. And by the way, I should say what the name of the book is. It's called The Essence of Bebop, and it's about the most important language in jazz. So we have 10 pieces in there. We analyze the pieces. We have practice tips. We have exercises. We have historical background. We have listening suggestions of over 30 different records that are tied into the etudes. And each etude is inspired by a specific artist. So there's one for Monk, there's one for an artist or group, there's one for the Jazz Messengers, one for Horace Silver, Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, of course, Dizzy, John Coltrane, Freddie Hubbard, Sonny Rollins, and Bird. Each of those pieces are very much in the style of those artists. And then we go through and analyze them. And for the brass players, we have alternate range things. So some of the things that might be a little bit higher, you could play it down an octave. For the double time ideas, we have alternate riffs so that someone can still have fun on the piece, though they might be able not to execute the double time parts. So, it's I think it's 64 pages long. It's much longer than my other books. The great thing now is that all of the play-alongs are downloaded from the internet. So when you get the book, there's a voucher code inside, and you go to the publisher's website and you download the play-alongs, and you got it. No more CDs. And I know a lot of people are very happy about that because we get emails all the time about lost CDs and that kind of thing. So I'm very enthusiastic about it. Bebop is something that is the most important language to me in jazz. Something that I've spent 40 years thinking about and playing and recording on records. It's the basis of who I am as a musician, and I feel that it's going to help a lot of people out.
That sounds terrific. And I think you've covered all the jazz bases that one could possibly dream of. That's terrific. And you mentioned all those people, the groups and the players and such. And a couple of days ago, I had a chance to hang out with a friend, and we were listening to this compilation of Charlie Parker recordings, and I think they'd been remastered. So his sound was like right in your face. You really could hear it very well. Whereas some of the older recordings, the horns were in the distance. Anyhow, what that guy did, I mean, you talk about Phil Woods as another giant. I can't even find the words. It was so brilliant and so well executed, and it was perfect what he played. It was perfect. It was just, you couldn't have written it any better. It was just amazing, to me anyhow.
I think that Charlie Parker was the greatest improviser of the 20th century. And I do feel like, too, that he probably was the greatest saxophone player, too, because there are other people that, great players that probably have the hands, the same kind of technique. But I don't think that anybody had the rapport with the instrument that Bird had. I think that's kind of the thing that separates him from everybody, is that extra level of rapport and feeling for the music and the instrument. And I mean, I say this in the book that, ignoring Charlie Parker as a jazz musician is akin to being a classical composer and ignoring Bach, like saying it's old fashioned or something. It's ridiculous. And there's just too much there to learn and build upon. So Charlie Parker is the foundation of bebop. There's no question about that.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any other things? Like in my intro, I mentioned obviously you're a player, a composer, arranger, blah blah blah. Amazing things. Do you have any other things in your life that's coming up in the next months, couple months, whatever?
Well, funny you should mention that. 3 weeks ago was the first gig I had in 8 months to the day. And that gig was a live recording in front of people at the Deer Head Inn, right down the street from Phil Woods' place.
Right.
So it was unbelievable. My gig was canceled there in June, and the owner called me back and said, "Do you want to play on Halloween?" And I said, "Yeah." And I was getting ready to plan out a new record. And I said, "This is it. This is what we're going to do." They were at 50% capacity, and incredibly, Charlie Parker's daughter was there, Kim Parker.
Yeah.
So she was there the whole night, very complimentary. And so I've got a record. It's called Live at the Deer Head Inn, which is with just an incredible band of Orrin Evans, Peter Washington, and Joe Farnsworth. That's coming out in March. And that's my next, hopefully I'll be able to work again at that time, but that's when the record's coming out.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. Well, great opportunity for you. All right. Before we close, anything else you want to say to the audience?
Well, I think, I get this question all the time about from students and teachers too, but really students, if you had one thing to say, one word of advice, what would it be? And it was just what I alluded to before in my own personal career, and that's inspiration. I mean, for me, when I first heard Phil Woods, I was so inspired by what I heard. And I think, and then there's so many other saxophone players and trumpet, and it goes on and on, that have inspired me to work harder and learn more. And it's all about the recordings. It's all about going to the source and learning as much as you can. And it would be really hard, I think, not to be inspired by listening to Miles Davis live in Europe, or Art Blakey playing Monin. It's too good. And I think that that's the best word of advice I can give anybody.
Very, very good. It was a pleasure to talk with you today, Jim. And we hope to see you and talk with you and hear you play in the near future. Take care.
Thanks, Pete. Stay safe.